everyone, welcome back to Art History Shorts and to our talking about Halloween, scary, creepy themed paintings that I'll be talking about for the month of October. And for this week, I decided to talk about Francisco Goya's black paintings that he did between the years 1819 and 1823, and in particular, the one he did, Saturn devouring one of his children. I've also seen it as Saturn devouring his son, or just Saturn. So some important things to know and understand about these the series of 14 paintings is that they weren't signed, they weren't dated, and they weren't titled by Goya. They were given titles after the fact by historians. And there's a lot of shifting information about them, like for example, that I've seen the different titles for them. This is because Goya never talked about these paintings. He never wrote about these paintings as far as we know. They didn't seem to be intended for public viewing, and he never exhibited them. It seems they were done more for personal enjoyment or personal outlet, as they were painted directly onto the walls of his farmhouse that he bought in 1819 outside of Madrid when he was 73. So he did these a lot later in life. And something I really wanted to say is that it can be really important to keep in mind when studying not only this series but paintings and art in general, is that a lot of what art historians are doing are interpreting the artwork. Sometimes we get letters or journals or documentation from the artist about their intention, why they created something, but other times we don't. But we can look at the time period and when something was created and the context around it and the artist's personal life, and we can kind of interpret from there, what influenced them or why. But there aren't always clear and definitive answers. So I just wanted to say that because we do know so little about the black paintings and what Goya's intentions were, and there's even some controversy over whether Goya himself painted these because of descriptions of the house and when the second floor was added, because he painted, these paintings can be seen on both the first floor of the farmhouse and the second floor. Many experts on Goya do believe that he painted these himself, judging by the style and the themes of past work he has done. So, Goya was a Spanish painter who started and trained in the Baroque and Rococo style of painting. He became a court painter, and then in 1786 he was appointed the position of painter to the king, Charles III, and he continued working for the court after Charles III's death and throughout the Napoleonic invasion of Spain. The work he was doing during this time period he was commissioned for was mainly like royal portraitures and stuff for the aristocracy, like really idyllic landscapes that were colorful, really idealized landscapes and still lifes and things like that. But after an illness in 1792 that left him permanently deaf, his own personal work really starts to develop. The work that he was being commissioned to do and the work that he was doing for himself were very different. Like, for example, his Los Caprichos series that he published in 1799. There were 80 etchings that criticized and attacked the politics and social and religious issues of the time. He used the drawings of witches and goblins and demonic goats and humans with animal heads. They're grotesque. These exaggerated characters as metaphors for the violence and ignorance and blind superstition he was seeing in Spain at the time. These themes are pretty dark and creepy, the way he drew these characters, but there's also a humorous edge to them as well. You can kind of look at them as maybe political cartoons and social commentary. So just to quickly mention about his rest of his life in the early 1800s, before he did the black paintings. Many historians see this time as really affecting him and his reasons behind doing the paintings. What really influenced him was really took place around this time was Spain was invaded by Napoleon's armies, and like I said, Goya continued working as a court painter actually for Napoleon's brother, who was on the throne. But he also did a series called The Disasters of War, where he depicted his reactions to the horrors and consequences of the violence he witnessed and continued to witness even after Spain regained control of the throne. So knowing all of that and the influences on Goya, after this, he leaves the court, he leaves Madrid, he kind of goes into exile, and then he purchases the farmhouse where he paints the black paintings. So they are known as the black paintings not just for the dark tones that he used, but also because of the dark subject matter. Many historians believe that Goya was deeply depressed, either because of the illness that left him permanently deaf, or because of his disillusionment and feelings about the political despondency, the horrors and the consequences of war, and the social developments of Spain. They believe that either of those reasons, or some combination of both, influenced him or inspired these paintings. These paintings were an outlet for his frustrations and depression, and he was deeply troubled and ill because of what he was seeing in Spain. Other historians believe that these are seen more as mockeries, ideas or things that he found humorous. And actually, the painting Saturn Devouring one of his children, and also this one titled Two Men Eating a Bowl of Soup, where one of them is basically a skeleton. He painted these in his dining room. So I think if you take a look at these works on their own, it is very easy to say that whoever painted them was deeply disturbed. But when you look at them in context with his other works, like the Los Capricios series, and look for the dark humor in them, I think there's a good argument there that there's more to these paintings than just a disturbed old man. Some research or comments that I've seen about these paintings is that they're kind of out of left field for Goya. But to me, when you look at the black paintings, I really feel like they're in line with his Los Capricios series and other works of commentary that he's done. But again, all of this is speculation, and these paintings and their intent are a mystery. So the piece I want to talk about in particular, as I mentioned, is probably his most well-known painting from the series, which is Saturn devouring one of his children. And so the story of Saturn, or Kronos from Greek mythology, was that he was a titan and the father of the first Olympian gods, like Zeus and Hades. And he hears a prophecy one day that one of his children will grow up to overthrow him. And so he decides to eat them when they're babies instead, so that this can't happen. Caring more about power and dominance than his own family. So you could read into this that this is some political commentary of the time of, maybe the royal aristocracy kind of caring more about themselves and their people. Kronos is also the god of time, and many have interpreted this particular piece as Goya wrestling with the passage of time and his old age. Regardless of why Goya painted it, and in his dining room, no less, this painting gives the viewer an undeniably visceral reaction. The part that gets me is maybe not so much the half-eaten baby, but Saturn's expression in his eyes. It's like he's just as horrified by what he's doing, but he can't stop himself. And the way that Goya painted this man, or Kronos, it's almost like the child with a missing head is painted with more human qualities, and this man he seems barely human. His limbs are elongated and bent at these weird angles. He's feral and animalistic, and this scene has actually been done by other artists. I think this is the most well-known one, and probably considered the most horrifying, but I actually think Rubens's version of this is way more terrifying because it's done much more realistically to how Goya painted the man. So just to kind of wrap up these paintings, about 50 years after his death is when they were transferred onto canvas from the farmhouse walls, and they were pretty damaged during this process. In fact, there were 15 in total. One didn't make it, and I believe that the one, the Witches' Sabbath, I think that some of the composition actually got cut off. Some writings of the time kind of describe it a little differently, so some of it didn't quite transfer, I think. And then lots of them parts had to be repainted. So yeah, it was a really tough transfer process. But and then after that they were sent to Paris to be on display and exhibit, and critics did not respond well to them. And they have been on view at the Prado Museum in Madrid since 1889. So I think the biggest takeaway from these paintings is maybe not necessarily why they were painted, but just how much they influenced art and artists to come. Goya was hugely influential to different time periods like Romanticism, Impressionism, and the black paintings in particular influenced Expressionism and Surrealism. In many ways, I think Goya can be seen as the father of modern art, along with, if not more so than Cezanne, who's often credited with that. I see Goya as a bridge between the old masters and the artists of modern art. So I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Goya and the black paintings. And if you did like this video, and subscribe if you want to follow and see more of the Halloween themed paintings I'll be talking about, or the paintings to come after that. And so thank you for watching.